Hey everyone, my name is Jocelyn Klein.
I'm Ellie Walton.
And I'm Owen Tsai.
The book that we picked for our cultural investigation project is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. It is a story that defines two different viewpoints of World War II, one from a blind girl living in Nazi-occupied France, and the other from a German boy turned soldier with an extraordinary mind. The topic we decided to focus on for this crash course video is the use of radio communication in World War II and how it relates to our story.
Radio communication occurs when two people are on the same frequency and they have the ability to communicate with each other. This played a monumental part in World War II because soldiers were able to communicate strategic or valuable information. Generals were able to tell their soldiers what specific actions to take, and soldiers were able to disclose their location to their team and explain an operation that fit the situation and would give them an advantage in battle. It was also useful for civilians who weren't in the war. They were able to secretly communicate with each other and relay supplies, shelter, and food. The radio succeeded where telegrams and newspaper failed in terms of the transmission of intelligence and information. Codes and ciphers that were broadcasted changed the course of the war once they were cracked by intelligence agencies. It gave light to people who were suffering under Nazi rule, as well as to formidable armies that challenged or supported Nazi Germany. It influenced many different types of people and circumstances. Without the radio, communication would have been a rare, precious thing, and the war would have taken a turn for the worse.
Many scenes from the book revolve around radio communication and its importance, especially with the use of radio warfare. In All the Light We Cannot See, Marie-Laure, a character turned blind from a degenerative eye disease, travels miles from Paris to her uncle's house with her father in search of safe housing. There, less than a week after the invasion, France is in disarray. Telegraph lines are not functioning. The newest newspaper is 6 days old. On the radio, the announcer reads public service classifieds. The radio was the only source of information and communication through the surprise attack by Nazi Germany. The public service classifieds tell of announcements from separated families, missing people, and messages of hope and safety. Werner Fennig, a boy from a small town in Germany who studied in the prestigious Nazi school because of his engineering-type mind, is sent out to war before he turns 18. There, he works with the Radio Signal Tracking Unit, where he and a few other men hunt down resistance radio stations that defy Nazi Germany. Volkheimer, a friend from school and Werner's sergeant, tells him that partisans are hitting the trains. They're organized, and the captain believes they're coordinating their attacks with radios. Radios are an asset to World War II, letting soldiers and resistance parties coordinate with each other in order to attack and defend. The radios that resistance parties are using are Werner's sole target, and being somewhat of a genius, Werner has the skill to find these signals and track them down by using mathematical formulas and the help of the other soldiers on his team. Werner and Marie meet because of radio communication. As Werner is trapped in a collapsed bunker, hiding from bombs, Marie is sitting on the top floor of her uncle's house, reading a book out loud and sending it through a radio transmitter. Werner, losing hope of ever making it out alive, listens to Marie's voice through the radio and decides to meet her, knowing that she is staying in the same city as him, located in France. When Werner escapes the bunker, he runs to Marie and climbs to the top floor to see her. Through the panel, he calls, "I am not killing you. I am hearing you. On radio is why I come." He pauses, fumbling to translate. The two main characters of the book finally meet in the end, through a series of events that came from fate or chance, despite the war and the complexity of their backgrounds. The radio, like a puzzle piece, fits into its place and completed the story, allowing for the encounter of both Marie and Werner.
For many people during the war, the radio was one of the only open lines of communication due to the immense amount of destruction to cities. An example of this is from Gertrude Stein, who lived and experienced World War II, who discussed the inability to find reliable communication during the war. You have no news except for the radio because there are no newspapers anymore, and no trains, no mail, no telephone. Since radios were a one-time purchase and usually portable, many families were able to buy them, and they were a crucial part of learning new information, hearing instructions from the government, and more. Instead of using radios for only communication purposes, many citizens would even use the radios to engage in radio warfare. The Resistance Party, better known as the people trying to stop these attacks or protect their cities, needed to find people who had good technical knowledge and proficient Morse code in order to send the messages out and organize these attacks or spread information. There was a great danger to the amateur radio operators involved, because if caught, they would face imprisonment or even be shot on sight. Similar to Werner, government officials would need to find these resistance party leaders and stop it, because they're going against what the country wants. Using radios to attack and defend can be very advantageous because they now have the power to protect. Radio communication also provided comfort to families in traumatic times. Christina Bade, a communication studies professor at Macpherson University, tells the unique story of Sandy Macpherson, a theater organist. In the span of 1 month, Macpherson reported that he had been on duty more or less continuously, having broadcast at least 50 times. During the terror of World War I, families had nowhere to turn to besides listening to the radio. It brought people together in a situation where it was needed the most.
The situations that Werner Fennig encountered in the novel All the Light We Cannot See reflect back on the true experiences of history. Looking for different means of communication when almost all are cut off was a huge role in Werner's life because it was essentially his job to find the other ways people might be spreading information. It was also a huge role in World War II because of the different ways families had to stay in touch or to hear news from the government.
In the novel, Werner saw how people were coordinating attacks through the use of radio warfare, and how he was responsible for driving around anti-Nazi countries and stopping them from spreading defiant ideology and attacking the Nazi army. This mirrors the idea that radio resistance parties needed to be quite skilled in order to avoid being captured by the search teams, so they needed to send their best efforts to protect their cities and attack their oppressors.
Finding comfort in a devastating event like World War II is crucial. Werner was able to find that comfort listening to the illegal radio broadcasts of Marie, who would read books, play songs, and give coordinates. Radio users during the war were also able to find comfort in singers and musicians through broadcasts that were sent out, which helped bring a little hope to everyone listening. The novel accurately reflects the same ideas and conflicts about the use of radios and how people use them to their advantage in a time where it felt like there was nothing left to do but fight.